Hi there. Let's talk about the Kristin Smart murder trial. What evidence is coming in and what evidence may be excluded. So I'm going to give you the highlights of the motions in limine, in other words, the motions that the defense and the prosecution has made to have evidence excluded or evidence to be admitted in trial. These are pre-trial motions. So I'll give you the highlights, but first, let me say thank you to all of those of you who have subscribed to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the bell notification. Please do leave a comment or a question. That's why I created this channel. I want to know what your analysis is because this is simply my opinion, my analysis, and it's for education and information purposes. So, just to give you a little background in case you popped on this channel, Kristin Smart has been missing since May of 1996. For over 26 years, no one has seen her. Her body has not been found, and one of her classmates, Paul Flores, is being charged with her murder, and his father, Ruben Flores, is being charged as an accessory after the fact because the prosecution is claiming that Paul's father, Ruben Flores, helped bury her body under his house, under the deck of his house. Okay, so if he's convicted, if Paul Flores is convicted, he's looking at 25 years to life. If Ruben Flores is convicted, he's looking at up to 3 years in prison. Okay, this case is very interesting legally. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy for everyone involved. And for Kristin's family, I mean, no one has seen her, and her parents, I think, both testified in the preliminary hearing that she was very close to her family. No one has heard from her. And the last person seen with Kristin Smart was Paul Flores. Okay, so let me give you some of the highlights of the motion. And again, it's called a motion in limine, meaning, in other words, limiting evidence. So they do these motions. We make these motions before trial to figure out what evidence we can get into the trial. For instance, the cadaver dog evidence, because there's cadaver dogs that alerted on Paul Flores' dorm room, and I'll get to that in a second. And whether or not certain witnesses can testify and what they can testify to. Okay, so let me go ahead and give you, we're just looking at the last 2 days of motions. Today, they are still hearing motions in this case, so I'll have to give you an update on that later. But for the first 2 days, this is the update. So let me go through. I got to look at my notes. It is Friday. So the defense wants to keep out a phone call between Paul Flores and his mother, Susan Flores. And in that phone call, his mother asked him to listen to a podcast because she wants him to poke holes in it. And she said, only you would know. And Paul was silent, didn't respond, and the defense attorneys want to keep that out, right? Well, the prosecution wants to bring it in under an adoptive admission. Adoptive admission. That's an exception to a hearsay. Hearsay is a statement made out of court offered for the truth. So this telephone conversation took place out of court, so it's hearsay, but the exception is it's an adoptive admission, meaning it's basically he's admitting to some culpability here by his silence. That's what the prosecution is arguing. The defense wants to keep it out. So the judge ruled that the phone call, the wiretapped phone call, comes in. It is admitted. So then the next motion the defense made was whether or not statements made by Paul Flores in 1996 could be shown to both juries. The prosecution said the prosecution wants to get these statements in. The defense, I have to look at my notes here. The defense ruled the defense doesn't want to get the statements in, and the judge said that the statements made by Paul Flores cannot be played in front of Ruben Flores' jury. Okay, so what's interesting about this case is it's one trial with 2 juries. One group of 12 jurors plus 8 alternates assigned to Ruben Flores' accessory after the fact case. The other jury is going to be focusing on evidence relating to the first-degree murder charge against Paul Flores. Okay, but there are going to be certain times during this trial when one of the jury panels are going to be excluded because there's evidence that's going to be incriminating, to either one of them. Okay, so that, number one, it's very unusual to have one trial with two juries, and the evidence in this case, the cadaver dog evidence, this radar scanning evidence, all of that is unusual, but it happens. Okay, so the judge is going to let the statement made by Paul Flores, it's not admitted. It's not going to be heard by the Ruben Flores' jury. Okay, I hope that made sense. Then the next thing is the defense wanted to exclude the search warrant affidavits. And they are saying the reason they want to exclude the search warrant affidavits, which are obviously incriminating towards Paul Flores, they want to keep that out because they said that the police were only focused on Paul Flores, only focused on him. He was the only suspect. Therefore, the searches and the fruits of those searches should be kept out. Okay, the evidence relating to those searches should be kept out. So they also said, the defense said, they described what the police were doing, quote, was a Wild West approach to getting warrants, and they asked the judge to take a step back, to view this intellectually, and to separate it from the emotional issues pervaded San Luis Obispo. Now, Cal Poly is located in San Luis Obispo, so ever since she's been missing, there's been billboards, there's been people looking for her for over 26 years, and no one has seen her. So the prosecutor argued that the defense has not made a substantial showing that the information in the search warrants was made with a reckless disregard for the truth. And the prosecution said that other suspects were considered, but they were systemically eliminated, and they asked the judge to deny the motion to suppress those search warrants. The judge said that the defense failed to demonstrate that the affidavits were made knowingly and intentionally with reckless disregard for the truth. Therefore, the judge has denied the defense's motion to suppress those search warrant affidavits. Okay, so the next thing that they got into was the defense wants to call a expert witness, a Dr. Ha, H-A, Dr. Ha. The defense attorney wants to call them to refute any of the cadaver dog evidence. The defense wants to keep out all the cadaver dog evidence. And the reason that's relevant is because they alerted the dogs, two dogs independently, if I have my facts right here, two dogs independently alerted to Paul Flores' dorm room on the Cal Poly campus. Okay? And they also, I think, used a cadaver dog or two searching under the deck of Ruben Flores' home. And I think at that point the dogs noticed, but they did not alert. And that's, that'll be a question that I'm sure will come up in the case, in the trial. So the defense wants to bring in this expert, and they have to qualify this expert. In other words, it's called voir dire. In other words, both sides have an opportunity to ask this witness whether or not they're qualified to give expert witness testimony regarding the cadaver dog evidence. This is the witness that the defense wants to present at trial. It's Dr. Ha. So according to Dr. Ha's website, Dr. Ha is a legal witness, a legal expert witness, and provides expert witness services for criminal, civil, and dangerous dog actions. Okay, this is not a dog bite situation. This is a case involving cadaver dogs. So the defense was trying to set a foundation to say that this witness is qualified by discussing what literature this witness has read, what's their experience, what's their background, right? Because if there's any insufficiency there, then the prosecution could say this witness doesn't have enough experience in order to give any kind of an opinion regarding whether or not cadaver dog evidence is reliable or not. Okay? So Dr. Haas said that he's not an expert in human remains detection dogs. He's not an expert, but he is on animal behavior. So what did the court do? The court decided to make their decision the following day. So let me get to day 2 here. So what did the judge rule? So the judge allowed the expert witness, Dr. James Haw, can testify on animal behavior in relation to this case. So this witness is going to be qualified, and the defense can call Dr. Haw to give an opinion on cadaver dog evidence. Okay? So, in cross-examination, because the prosecution has an opportunity to cross this witness to test whether or not he's qualified to give an opinion, the defense asked Dr. Haw if cadaver dogs always get it right, and the doctor answered that success rate depends on the dog and the handler. Then on cross by the prosecution, Dr. Haw testifies that dogs alert to only remains that are present within 24 to 48 hours. So they're using the cadaver dog to alert to figure out whether or not Kristin Smart's body, where it is, where any of her potential DNA is, and they're using these dogs to see if they can detect anything. So Dr. Haw said, so then on cross-examination, Dr. Haw conceded that the studies have shown that decomposition odors can remain present long after a body has been removed. He said a dog's success rate could be at max 80%. So this is the defense's expert conceding that these dogs could be 80% reliable and that the decomposition odor could be present long after the body has been removed. So what this motion where they're testing that whether or not this expert is qualified, and all the motions that they make in pretrial, we attorneys, this isn't our opportunity to preview, right? To test out the witnesses. And also it gives us an idea of what each other's theories are. Okay? So here's the government, the prosecution testing whether, this witness's opinion on cadaver dogs. So the defense attorney on redirect asked if a dog's primary motivation is to please its handler. And Dr. Haw said it depends on the dog's personality. Then the defense also said that the prosecution is trying to throw everything at the wall to see where it sticks, and says that cadaver dog handlers, they're just volunteers. They're nice people, but they're not scientists. And the defense argued that cadaver dog evidence is junk science, and it should be thrown out to avoid a false conviction. The defense said an alert should not be considered evidence. The dog alerting should not be considered evidence. The alert to Paul Flores' dorm room at the time. He adds that Paul's dorm room had a great deal of contamination, roommates, etc., right? So this is giving us a clue as to what the defense may be arguing in this case at trial, right? Then the attorney representing Ruben Flores said that this is a bold attempt by the state, by the prosecution, to create evidence when none exists. I call it hocus pocus. So we have one attorney calling it junk science, cadaver dog evidence is junk science. We have the other defense attorney calling it hocus pocus. He said that dog handlers, in their zealousness, they want to help just a little too much. So, okay. Then the prosecution argued that Dr. Haw, the defense's expert witness here, Dr. James Haw, oozed obvious bias. Try saying that on a Friday. And was paid by defense counsel to say whatever they wanted him to say. I mean, that's what they always argue. He adds that, and this is interesting, he adds that Dr. Ha was found to be unqualified as an expert witness in the last trial when he was asked to testify. So the prosecution is saying this witness didn't qualify last time. So the defense said that Dr. Ha is well regarded as a zoologist, and that his focus has been on birds and primates, and that the other defense attorney said that the prosecution is trying to use cadaver dog evidence in lieu of a body, right? They don't have Kristin Smart's body. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible tragedy. And they're saying using cadaver dog evidence in lieu of a body is would highly prejudice a jury. Yeah, well, it is prejudicial if it's incriminating, okay? But the question is whether it's highly prejudicial. Is it more probative? So, the defense said it gives the state an opportunity to buttress their horribly weak case. So the defense is saying cadaver dog evidence is junk science, hocus pocus, and the government has a horribly weak case. So the judge, what did the judge rule? The judge ruled, and I agree with her, that jurors are capable of understanding a cadaver dog's capabilities and limitation, and says that cadaver dog evidence will be admitted in the trial. And the court declined to exclude the defense's request to exclude the cadaver dog evidence. So cadaver dog evidence is coming in. It's like there's a jury instruction. Jurors are instructed to evaluate the credibility of a witness, and that also includes the cadaver dogs, okay? So then the prosecution called a woman by the name of Angie Butler. She's a forensic serologist from the Serological Research Institute in Richmond, California. So Butler testified that on November 14th in 2019, she received a tan canvas mattress cover from the San Luis Obispo Sheriff's Department that she understood came from Paul Flores' dorm room. So it's a mattress cover. What did she do with that? She tested it. She noticed a small brownish stain on the mattress cover, which tested positive for presumptive presence of blood. But whose blood was it? She doesn't know. She did a DNA analysis and found the incomplete DNA profiles of three contributors from Paul Flores' mattress cover from that blood sample. When comparing the profiles to a sample of Kristin Smart's DNA, she was unable to include or exclude Kristin Smart as a contributor due to a likelihood ratio and blood analysis that didn't sufficiently support either one of the conclusions. So this serologist expert who tested the blood said that she couldn't form an opinion as to whose blood it is. Okay? So that's going to be interesting in the trial. All right? And this also gives the defense a preview of what this witness will testify to. Okay, so let's see what else here. Then we had another sorry, I have to look at my notes here. The defense on cross asked this witness if the computer software for testing the DNA uses algorithms so it can make assumptions. This witness said software doesn't make assumptions. Okay, so we're getting at the defense is going to say whatever this witness' opinion is, the defense is going to say it's based on a bunch of assumptions. Okay. And the other attorney, Ruben Flores' attorney, asked this witness, Dr. Butler, if she would be able to tell how many stains on the mattress cover were contributed by males or females. The prosecution objected, and the question was withdrawn, so we don't know. They may ask that question again in trial. We'll see. Okay, so who's the next witness? What was the next motion? This is relating to Phil Haynes. He testified as to doing a ground penetrating radar search at Ruben Flores' home. So he did a radar search of the ground below the deck, Ruben Flores' home, below the deck, where the prosecution is alleging that's where Kristin Smart's body was buried. Okay. So it's called a GPR, a ground penetrating radar search. He did that search in March and April of 2021, just prior, or just around the time that Paul Flores was arrested. So, Cindy Arlington also testified. She's, I guess, a partner of Phil Haynes. She testified that the soil in the area underneath the deck showed signs of being mixed extensively and contained a bathtub ring stain around the outer edge, indicating that something was once buried in that hole and it leaked. So what was it that was buried that leaked? And in the preliminary hearing, they apparently found a 6 foot by 4 foot anomaly, 6 foot by 4 foot anomaly in the ground underneath the deck, and they detected that through their GPR scans. So Paul Haynes testified that the area was consistent with the ground. I'm sorry, it was consistent with the ground being dug up at one point and later being refilled. Okay? So who dug up, what was in there, and who refilled it? So Cindy Arlington also testified that there was an inconsistency of the staining showing that a hole had been dug up, the source of the leak had been removed, and the hole had later been refilled. Now, why this is important, again, I'm sure the prosecution is going to be arguing that's where they put her body. They hid her body underneath Ruben Flores' deck. Okay? And they removed it once they knew that the possibility of being arrested. Okay? So, on cross-examination, the defense accused Arlington of coming up with the hypotheses to advance the prosecution's theory. Okay, that's argument, all right? And of course, they're trying to show that this witness is biased. Again, this is going to be something that may show up in the trial, and it's up for the jury to decide, to evaluate the credibility and the believability of this witness. So the defense also asked Arlington if it was possible that nothing was ever buried there. Nothing was ever buried there. It was just a hole that was dug up and refilled. Arlington responded, somebody dug a very large hole under that deck and then refilled it. Whatever was buried there, it leaked fluid. That hole was excavated, highly disturbed, and then put back. So what was the leaky fluid? That's my question. So that's what they ended with on the motions yesterday. So today is Friday. And today they're going to be continuing with their motions by both sides to figure out what evidence comes in or what evidence stays out at the trial. So I'll keep you posted. So if you have any questions or comment, please do leave them. Please do support my work by subscribing to this channel. Hit that like button, hit the bell notification, do share these videos. And by the way, do take a look at the video I did. I did a live analysis the Kristin Smart case. You can take a look at that, and I think I did another video. It's Friday. It's been a long week. So anyway, enjoy your weekend, and thanks so much for watching. And please do subscribe, and please leave a comment because I want to know what's your analysis. Thanks for watching.